Welcome to Yerushalmi Sotah Daf Mem Tes. We'll start on the bottom of Daf Mem Ches on base. Allah Yirav Zok Mishnah Yochanan Kohen Gadol Hever Es Hadois HaMaisa. He stopped when people used to bring the video Maisa, when people wrote their Maisas. Afu Bitel Esem Oidurin. Ones used to wake up. That's the referring. We'll see in the Gemara referring to Levim when they sang Shiris at Lamasishan. Hashem es hanoikfin, people used to knock the animals. We'll see why in the Gemara. Until his days, they used to do work on Chalamoid Yerushalayim, even though it was work that was necessary, still was a zilzal in the Kvoid HaMoed of Yamav Ein Odom Tzarech Lishlal Demai. And he also, during his time, people didn't have to ask about Demai. We'll see what this means in the Gemara. So the Gemara Rabbi Yirmiyah B'chir B'Shem Rabbi Shem Lakish. Masnitna Mishnah Echshedo Lias Noisa Maisa L'Kahuna. The Mishnah, why would they mavir? Why did he stop saying Adois Maisas? Because they were nechshed to give the Maisa to the Kai. Now, this is a famous when they went up. When they went up, the times of Ezra went out from Bavel, what happened was many of the people didn't want to, the Levim didn't want to go, so therefore it was kindness that the Meiser the Meiser Rishon should go to the Kahanim and not to the Levim. Um, so once they started giving it to the Kohen, they couldn't say the Vidim Meiser anymore because they didn't give it to the Levi, but they didn't give it to the Levi. Okay, so this actually is a right to Rabbi Yochanan in one respect, and in one respect it argues Rabbi Yochanan. At the time we learned to have asked Kohen Levi, lo yoichle, lo seichel, lo betruma, v'lo b'meiser. A Bas Kohen Levi. So if you have a Bas Kohen who's married to a Levi, now either she's Mureses or she's pregnant or she's a Shmeres Yavan to a Levi. So Lo Seichel Lo B'Truma Lo B'Maisa. So Nicha B'Truma makes sense. She can't eat Truma because she has a Zika to the Levi, right? So therefore she is not a Kehenis, at least temporarily. But Lo Seichel B'Maisa, why not? Madashach Kehenis he Teichel Levi he Teichel. Why can't she eat the Maisa? So Rabbi Yochanan command Ameinos Ma'aseh L'Kuhuna. So Rabbi quotes Rabbi Yochanan as saying this is going like the Shita says that you can't give Ma'aseh to you can't give Ma'aseh to a kohen. So obviously this is arguing on what we said in the Mishnah that you give it to the kohen. So our Mishnah obviously holds that Ma'aseh does go to you could give it to the kohen. And misayele, and it's also we said it's a raya to Rabbi Yochanan. Duama kulon l'shvach, that all the items listed in the Mishnah that Yochanan Kohen Gadol was geyser, that was all said l'shvach. Don't Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol shalach abadu b'cholor Yisrael l'matzon shlohim afrishin ela truma gedola bilvat. And he saw that people were mafresh only truma gedola of mas rishon u'maiser sheni. However, when it came to mafresh, mas rishon, maiser sheni, so over there, mehenohi mafresh, menolei mafresh was some that were mafresh, we're setting aside, and some that were not setting aside the Meiser Rishon and Meiser Sheni. And Truma Gedol again, people there was more, it's more chamer, so people treated it more chamer, therefore they weren't willing to risk it, and also you get away with giving away a lot less. So Amai said, Hayel, and then we'll go with the Girsa, Amalahem, and we're going to Girsa the carbonate of it, Amalam Hayel with Truma Gedola, Ba'avoin Misa, or Trumas Meiser Sheni is Ba'avoin Tevel, which Shahu Misa. So what should they do? So what a person does is he so when a person buys what effectively is demai, so let in kaira shem latruma trumas ma'aser v'nois l'kayin. He has to give it to the kayin. There's no choice. You have to give it to the kayin. And then umayse sheni mechaloi alamoy. So that's again no problem. The guy can keep the ma'aser sheni. It's not a problem because he keeps it for himself. And now again we'll go to the girsa of the carbonated ma'aser rishon umayse ani. That's already he can keep for himself. Shamoitzi mechabel right. In other words, let the Levi come and say, "Hey, I didn't get my ma'aser." But let him prove, I should say the other way around, let him prove that Maisa wasn't given off this and he could take it. And uh, same thing would be for the Ani. For the Gemara, I don't understand. Please vada. Let him say vido, because at the end of the day, like the carbonator says over here, they were mafresh everything. Maybe didn't give everything away, but he was mafresh. Why can I say vido? Amrabila, kasufne mokim, mishu oima sisi v'ula yasa. Right? It says a sisi kechol ashet civisani. At the end of the day, you didn't, because you didn't give it away. Yeah, you were mafresh it, but you didn't give it away. Therefore, God gets angry if he hears that. No So the one who's actually mafresh, let him say the full video, and the one who's not, okay, he won't say the video. So the Gemara kadod atani ad shkif oyom ramin kol namach. We can veil him kol gavos. And this is you're right. He wasn't completely um, mevatel. Yochanan Kangal wasn't completely mevatel. Um, the Hadois Maisa, what he did was the people that gave Maisa that actually were mafresh. So those people said it b'kol namuch, and the people who didn't, right? The people who didn't weren't mafresh didn't say it at all, and the rest from from Ashkifa and on that they said already b'kol gavai. In this way, in order that nobody should be embarrassed. Right, so what does that refer to the Mishnah? Oisen show oimrim ura lama sishna Hashem v'chi yeshenu v'nei malkaim like vanema hine loyam loyshon Hashem Yisrael. Right, so therefore he was mevatel. He says no sheina. Ma tamaloi v'yikatz ki yoshen Hashem el kavyochel ki ilu yesh lefanu sheina b'shosh Yisrael b'tzara v'umesoelim b'revacha. It's as if Kaviyachol, God is sleeping when Yisrael is Bitzara, and the rest of the world, they're all fine. It says also in the Pasuk, Vam Roisam, Tolan, when the Moira knows when the Yidden rebel against me, it's Tolan, and if Kaviyachol, my eyes are sleeping. But here, Yochanan kan gadol mevatel this. As a naikfin, what are the naikfin? So that, we said, Oison shayu makin al gabe ha'egel b'karno. So they used to hit the egel between its horns, in order to knock it off a balance, so it'll be easier to shech. That's what we're learning over here. And I always learned, and I think it's brought down in the Mishnah, is that they used to make it easier to shech, they used to actually make a small cut by its forehead. It would drip into its eyes. So it's hard to see, and that made it easier to shech. But okay, that's what the carbonated says. Like I said, you knocked it on his head just to knock it off a balance, make it easier to shech. How are you going to keep going on giving the nevelus or trefus if you want to give so? In other words, it's not really possible, obviously, but it's not nice what you're doing. Instead, he made rings, and those rings were the rings that they would put the neck of the animal in and shech the animal. And they were wide in the bottom of it, like the shape of the neck of an animal. That was at the beginning of his career. He right away got rid of that. And when during his time, no one had to ask about Tamai. They knew that it was that everything was properly tived, as they say. Shehem Mitzugos. He was Mamitzugos. Yeah, I guess maybe he might be the first one that opened up Hashkacha. So he had mashkichim going around. Milsid Rabbi Shua ben Levi Amru, mehen lignai, mehen l'shvach. Now, Milsid Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says that actually here, up to now, the Gemara is taken for granted that everything that Yochanan Kohen Gadol did was l'shvach. And Rabbi Shua ben Levi says no, some was also lignai. Dam Rabbi Yosef b'shem Rabbi Tanchum, Rabbi Chiya b'shem Rabbi Shua ben Levi, but Rishono ayi ma'isa nasa l'shloisha chalokim. Originally, ma'isa was split into thirds. Shlish le Shlish was given away. A person had friends he knew that were Kaihanim and Leviim, so those were given to them. V'shlish la'itza, a third would go to tzedakah. V'shlish la'aniyim, They were given over to Anim and to Talmid Chachamim in Yerushalayim. Okay, that's how a person split his Mesa. Amr Yosef Rabbi Von, man da have a solak lemeidan b'Yerushalayim atlas igun haviyov midilay. Now, somebody, it depends who you go with over here, according to the Carbonated, this is referring to somebody who had a court case in Yerushalayim. So what we do is, right, if a person would be Tevea, somebody Latin, you would send out a letter from Bezdin, right, a summons. So Atlas Igrin, the three summons, up to three summons, have Yav Midilay. So he had to live off his own funds while this person was in Yerushalayim for din. Mikan ve'elach, but once three summons had passed and the Baldin didn't show up, so if his in other words the guy who was taking to the entire didn't come, then Mishaloitza he can live off the tzedakah in Yerushalayim. Mishabol les ben Pachura v'Yehuda ben Pachura hayunaytel noisim b'Zraya. They used to go and take from they used to take from the oitzer from tzedakah b'Zraya, even though they had enough money. Vayisfeika b'yada limchais, and Yochanan Gadol had the koyach to moiche, but he wasn't moiche. And instead he was mevatel ma'isa. This way they wouldn't get it. In other words, these mafiosos, Elias ben Pachura and Yud ben Pachura, wouldn't be able to take it. So he said, okay, they didn't give it, and instead vehever does a ma'isa v'zul ignai. Therefore, it was ignai because he could have protested and he didn't. Some oirin, that's l'shvach, like we said, and Sanoikvin also was l'shvach. And at Yom of Hoyma Patish Makrishalayim at Chilas Yamav, and that was also l'shvach. And that was right when he, at the beginning of his reign as Kohen Gadol, right away he was Vavatel Malacha in Yerushalayim. Rav Chassidus showed Rav Chizkiah Lemis Dabra at Seif Yamav. No, he says no, that it means really until the end, until he was he had been serving for Kohen Gadol as Kohen Gadol for a long time before he actually got around to stopping the Avodah on Chol Hamoed in Yerushalayim, and which means then this is something that's lignai. Amalei afanos avakain. So Chizki said, yeah, I hold also that it's also lignai. Okay, demai. So what is demai? What does this mean? So Rabbi Yosef b'Shem Rav Chizki b'Shem Rav Yehuda and Pazi demai. What does that mean? Demi tikin, demi loy tikin. Was it masukin? Was it not masukin? That's what demai. It's a suffix. Zogt el Gemishna Lochid Beis. Misha Batal Sanhedrin, Batal Hashir Mi Beis HaMishtais. When Sanhedrin was Batal, then there was no more singing at the parties anymore. Shneimah says, Bishir lo yishtu yayin. Okay, the Gemara will talk about this. So the Gemara Abba Bar Ravimi Amaz Kena Mishar Shavsu, and what's the rest of the pasuk? Bachurim Miniginasan. So that's where it comes from. So now Zakena Mishar Shavsu, when the Zakena were no longer in the Shar, so that's when the Bachurim stopped the singing. So also stopped the Bachurim stopped the singing. Amar V'chis B'rishona Hoysa Ema Sanhedrin Aleim V'loi Hoyo Omrin Divrei Nevala B'Shir. As long as the Sanhedrin was around, they sang songs that were Kaddish. And they stopped singing about stupidities. So therefore, once the Sanhedrin stopped, so did the Shir. And according to the Carbonated, this means they wouldn't go back. Somebody saying Divrei Nevola in a Shir, right? Mentioning things that weren't fitting. So they would go after, so the Sanhedrin go after the guy himself. Now but now that there's no Sanhedrin, unfortunately, it means not only does he get punished, but also the rest of his family. And the Gemara is going to elaborate on this. Amr Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Bum B'Shem Rabbi Chuna B'Rishona Kol Tzara Sh'Oisa Ba Al Tzibur Hay Poskin Simcha Kenegdo. So the way it worked was every time there was a tzara and they were paida from the tzara, so they would establish a yanta for it. But Mishabatal Sanhedrin Batal Hashem Beis Mishtahiyos. When Sanhedrin Batal is no more share. Mishabatal Elu ve'elu, when there was no more ready, when they stopped with the Yom Tovim for the tzaras that had gotten past, like we have Purim, right, coming up. So you have Purims. Why do we have Purim? Purim is because we were saved from a Haman. By Shabbat Leil, when they stopped with the Simcha Keneged the Tsaras that had passed, and there was no Sanhedrin, Shavas Misos Libenu Nepach Level Mechalenu, quoting of the quoting Eichel. Right, it's dark. It's sad. Chimao is the Sanhedrin Gedoy Lamayel. So what did right? So now. We mentioned before that when the Sanhedrin was around, they only punished the person himself. But when the Sanhedrin wasn't around anymore, now they had to go and punish also the family got punished as well. So B'chima Isa shel Sanhedrin Gedolim Elis, and for the Gemara Lefishin im Halam Yalimu im Artzas Inayim, right? It's a pasuk, right? If Mina Ishahu B'Sita Mizar Lamoylech, if nobody, even the Amoritz, doesn't protest, this guy goes and it's makriv his kids to avoid desire. Levilti Hamis, I say, not to kill the guy and thereby prevent him from taking his kids to avoid desire. So. What we're saying over here is b'chol misa sheyirtzu. Whatever misa the Amoritz can give him, they should do. Notice, even though there's no Sanhedrin, let the Amoritz come and prevent this person from being from worshiping the Melech. So if they didn't do that, notice if they don't even do that, what happens? Then it says nosati panai b'ishahu, right? And it talks over there that who mishpachtoi. So you see, when the Kadosh Baruch Hu has to get involved already, that's already an escalation. And that's why even his mishpacha was punished. And Mashal Madav was similar to that compared it to a case Lechad Shekil Kalbi did something wrong in the city. Masul Bala Egmont. He gave him to the local mayor. V'chav put him in jail. Why kosher Bala Egmont? This guy was a little bit too smart for himself. And he was kosher for Bala Egmont. Didn't know how to deal with him. So Masul Bala's Moira. He gave him to the Bala's Moira, which says there's Moiris, there's wood over there, there's vines. It's another form of prison. V'chav and he was in jail over there by the Balas Meira. Kosher Balas Meira. He was a wise guy. He was ready more. He was better than the Balas Meira. So Masul Balaritzu, they gave him to the guy who gives out Malchus with a strap. The Satra, he gave him Malchus with a strap. But Kosher Balaritzu. So this guy was a smart. Yeah, he's a smart aleck. He thought he's smarter about it. So what happened? Masul Shilton. Now we already gave him over to the ones who are done Misa. Right, V'chziru l'kamin, and he ended up going up and smoking the chimney. They threw him into an oven like the Covenant says and burnt him up. That's it. He died. So kach tzos achroinos mishkachas es rishonis. So too over here, unfortunately, what happens to us is in Klal Yisrael we stopped celebrating the earlier tzaris, our gula from the earlier tzaris, because the later tzaris, unfortunately, we see this especially the recent history. You see that the later tzaris were even worse than the first tzaris. So therefore. I said, okay, we won't celebrate the Gula from the original Tsaris.